Gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government. You still think that jet fuel brought down the World Trade Center? Does anybody else see a problem here? If the government has nothing to hide, why are they so afraid to answer a few
Last night, we had a special visit from international terrorist Cobra Commander. The actual Cobra Commander appeared and declared his intent to run for the presidency, and I thought it was so great. I'm just going to play a clip from it. Here he is announcing his bid for presidency of the United States.
Miss Napolitano, I'm sorry to reveal your identity. I mean, forget that. Cobra Commander, why are you agreeing to this interview? You said you had some special announcement for us. Please tell us what that is, sir.
I am the leader. I am Cobra Commander. I have agreed to this interview so that you might know that I have decided to go public and to have a public stock offering in Cobra Global Enterprises. I intend to issue my own fiat currency, but before I do that, I intend to sue Homeland Security for copyright and trademark infringement. Black uniforms, ski mask, checkpoints, black armored tanks on the streets, preemptive war, torture, wireless wiretapping. Total tyranny is the new freedom that Cobra has taught the world. And now Joe and the Pentagon have stolen my plan and hired Al-Qaeda to carry out their operations in Libya, which they formerly did for me. Now, clearly, America and the rest of the system has realized that I am the true visionary. And so I now announce to you and the world the greatest moment in the history of Cobra! Cobra! I will now sit for president and run on the Republican Party ticket against that plagiar of Barack Obama that's stolen so many of my ideas. Clearly an America that loves indefinite detention and the NDAA and torture and secret arrest is ready to be ruled by a true tyrant. I was a snake and an oppressor before it was cool. Hail Cobra! Cobra! I am running for president of the United States, and from America I will continue the policy of global corporate war against the third world, death and destruction, forced inoculations. Hail Cobra!
And that was Cobra Commander. We got a lot of feedback from that, mostly positive. A lot of people, well, not a lot of people, some people don't understand when Alex does these things. They think he might be, discrediting the movement or something. But I tell you what, it does let off a lot of steam. And for people out there who are asleep and who aren't awake, stuff like this could be the shot they need to actually do that further investigation to see what's going on out there. So I really like it when he does these. I remember he was talking today on the radio when he did Global Love Cop. I actually went out and we heard that skit, and the band I was in at the time, we wrote a song called Global Love Cop, and we would put the bar under martial law. We would close the doors, freak everybody out, and, just to try to wake people up, get them to understand this is what's happening. This is like in the early 2000s. So kudos to Alex for doing that. Now let's move on. GSK lab find over vaccine test that killed 14 babies. And it seems like GlaxoSmithKline, because they can't test their poison on the people here in the United States, have to go to South America and dupe those people. I think they were duping people with like 28-page consent forms. I mean, ridiculous. So GlaxoSmithKline Argentina Laboratories was fined 400,000 pesos by Judge Anguski following a report issued by the National Administration of Medicine, Food, and Technology for the killing of 14 babies during illegal lab vaccine trials conducted between 2007 and 2008. The charges included experimenting with human beings, falsifying parental authorization so babies could participate in the vaccine trials conducted by the laboratory. The doctors took advantage of these many illiterate parents whom take their children for treatment by pressuring and forcing them into signing these 28-page consent forms involved in the trials. Once a PICC patient arrived, it would automatically disappear, be taken somewhere, and in order to be treated by those doctors specifically recruited by GSK. These kinds of practices are not legal and occurred without any type of state control. It goes on. It is also known that in various particular cases, the doctors who had conducted these trials did not answer the calls made by worried parents after witnessing their baby's reactions to vaccines. This is a total crime that goes on repeatedly by these companies who wrap themselves with lawyers and legislation that protects them, and it's sick. And the precursor to that is the SV40 virus, which is covered in this book, and it's going to be an amazing interview coming up with Alex Jones in just a few minutes. We've got 2 more stories to go to. We're going to go to a quick break and then come back to that interview with Alex. From Natural News, woman files class action lawsuit against Frito-Lay for marketing genetically modified snacks as all natural. And this made me sick because I actually eat one of these brands. Frito-Lay is the subject of a new class action lawsuit that pegs the company for illegally marketing its snack products, which are loaded with GM ingredients, as being all natural. Represented by Milberg LLP of Los Angeles, Julie Gingo of Richmond, California, recently filed a class action lawsuit against Frito-Lay, alleging that the snack products are fraudulently labeled. Frito-Lay Sun Chips, Tostitos products are made with GM vegetable oils and potentially even GM corn, but they're both labeled as being all natural. But GMO products are not all natural ingredients and are in fact admittedly synthetic, which makes the products that any product that contains them unnatural. And that's even by their own definition. You can go to the Monsanto website. The company defines GMO on its website as food with genetic makeup altered to exhibit traits that are not naturally theirs. So they even use the term unnatural. So kudos to Julie. Hopefully they do some of that, and I will not be eating Sun Chips ever again. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. You keep learning this stuff, you keep educating yourself, and eventually you say no, you draw your line in the sand. Which leads us to our final article of the evening. Busted. Scientists leave out data to produce bogus findings. The BMJ, which is the British Medical Journal, is sounding the alarm that data reported by scientists is too often not the truth because researchers leave out inconvenient data. Kind of like the inconvenient truth with Al Gore. Turns out that this is no once-in-a-while kind of problem either. The BMG claims a large proportion of the evidence from human trials is unreported, and much of what is reported is done so inadequately. And then it goes in a little more commentary. Big Pharma's pills and potions are often pushed based on studies that simply ignore and leave out major data about what is really discovered about a medication lacking of benefits, potential dangerous side effects, and more. And 2 additional studies show the requirements for mandatory trial registration and timely sharing of results are poorly followed, if at all. And you know why this happens? I'm going to tell you why this happens. It's because most of these studies are paid for by the drug companies. And if you're a company that's receiving money from a drug company to do different types of studies, what are you going to do if you want to keep that contract? Well, you're going to get the results that they asked for. That's how it's done in this country. It's done with money. That's how elections are stolen, like what we saw in Iowa. Go to a final bit here. We have a couple letters. Actually, these emails were on my chair this morning. And if you want to send us letters, you can email me, which is robd@infowars.com, or write us at infowars.com, P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas 78760. First one is from Eugene. And he says, "Hi, greetings from Israel. We listen to your show here, and also let me tell you, it is fascinating. Keep up the good work, Eugene." And a final one here from Jeff. "I am a soldier stationed overseas, and I am very grateful for everything the InfoWars staff is doing. I just want you to know there are young service members here that take their oath to the Constitution very seriously." That's a good thing to hear. "We did not sign away our rights. Dissent is patriotism. Thank you for all the work that you put into bringing out the truth to the American people, and know that you have support with many of us in uniform." So please feel free to write us tips, suggestions, anything you'd like, and we'll read it on the air every once in a while as we get some in. These just happened to be on my desk this morning. Alex told me I was doing the news, so I said, well, you know what? I'm going to show a couple of these letters to the people out there, and that they do come in. And I think that was interesting. One from Israel, one from a soldier stationed overseas.
And we are back. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday, 5th of January, 2012 edition. Wow, we're almost through the first week of 2012. Amazing. I want to thank Rob Dew for doing the news portion of InfoWars Nightly News tonight. And I'll have a comment on the TSA and its armed ID checkpoint in Florida at the end of the interview we're about to do. Now, a few years ago, I read the intriguing book, Dr. Mary's Monkey. And a lot of this is original research, but some of it I had actually seen in other government documents and research that I had separately looked at. So it's a very, very credible book. And the author, the foreword is written by, of course, investigative journalist Jim Marrs. But the author lives in New Orleans, and I guess that's why he took an interest in the 1964 murder of a nationally known cancer researcher. And so that sets the stage in this book. Now, this is just a 20-minute interview tonight. But I want to get Edward T. Haslam, the author of Dr. Mary's Monkey, back on the syndicated radio show sometime in the next few weeks to really break this down. Because what reminded me of this book and made me pull it off the bookshelf and reread parts of it again was a few weeks ago, we all saw the leader of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, come out and say that Fidel Castro had told him, look out, they'll give you cancer. And I had read about programs to try to develop fast-acting cancers to go after people like Fidel Castro in Cuba. And now we've got other leaders of Latin American countries coming down with cancer. And so it's become a big debate in Latin America and worldwide. Hey, are they being given weaponized cancer? So one of the leading researchers into this area is Edward T. Haslam, author of Dr. Mary's Monkey. And by the way, it's put out by a great publisher, Trine Day. If you want to find out more, look them up online, but it's also in quite a few bookstores and obviously on Amazon. But here's the man himself. Great to have you with us. What got you onto the path of this, and boil down the book for us?
Well, Alex, I'm from New Orleans, and my father was a doctor at Tulane Medical School. And one of his best friends, Dr. Mary Sherman, was murdered. So the book is first and foremost an investigation into her murder. And the deeper I got into this, the more I realized that she was an expert in cancer and in radiation. And she worked for Dr. Alton Ochsner, who was involved with the framing of Lee Harvey Oswald in New Orleans. And I heard rumors way back in the 1960s that David Ferrie, who Jim Garrison was pursuing on the JFK assassination, had an underground medical laboratory with this Dr. Mary Sherman. And what I knew that others did not know was that Mary Sherman was world-class expert. And so you have this weird connection of world-class expert and Looney Tune political right-winger. And that's a dangerous combination of events. So I started looking into it, and I realized that the entire story around Mary Sherman's murder had been faked, because what happened to her was never told to the public. And she got her arm blown off by a linear particle accelerator, which they were using. That's a radioactive piece of equipment, which they were using to mutate monkey viruses. And the reason they were doing this originally was because 200 million doses of the polio vaccine that had been distributed to the American public in the 1950s and 60s was contaminated with a cancer-causing virus by the name of SV40. And they originally were looking for a vaccine to try to stop this cancer, which is today causing a cancer epidemic in America and elsewhere. And right when they were doing that, that's when the Russian missiles come into Cuba. And New Orleans, a lot of the economy in New Orleans was disrupted by that embargo of Cuba and the sugar and all that other stuff. And the threat of Castro's taking this revolution to the rest of Latin America and spreading it, it threatened the entire system of cheap labor and coffee beans and bananas and all that stuff that was coming into New Orleans. So the decision was made in the spring of 1963 to weaponize the monkey viruses that they were researching in this secret facility. This is like a medical Manhattan project hidden on U.S. government property in uptown New Orleans. And it's located right down the street from the personal residence of the guy that used to be the president of the American Cancer Society. And right down the other street is Lee Harvey Oswald, who's part of this project. He's like a courier runner. And then they bring in this woman who's an expert. I mean, she's very young at the time, but she's an expert in handling cancer-causing viruses.